Sometimes we have different names for the exact same thing. They actually aren't the same thing, but are pretty much the same thing. Like when it comes to fedora hats versus trilbies. Supposedly, there is a difference. The effect is the same. I want to take that same concept and talk about whether you're playing in a major key versus a minor key and the chords and stuff in there, right? So we've talked a little bit about the notes and chords that make up the major scale. I think it's the absolutely most fundamentally important piece of music theory that you could ever learn. Pretty much everything that comes off of, a lot of the music theory that I talk about in this channel really starts there. I'll link you to a video that goes more in depth on that, but really just kind of like to breeze through it. There's 7 notes in a key, like key of C major, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Once you think of those as numbers, it can work in absolutely any key. Every one of those 7 notes can become its own chord. The first, 4th, and 5th notes always become major, so in the key of C, 1, 4, and 5 would be C, F, G. The 2nd, 3rd, and 6th notes always become minor. So in that same key, D minor would be 2, E minor would be 3, A minor would be 6, and that 7th one is a diminished chord, right? So a lot of, really, you can just take that one piece of information, and then just have at it, play your entire musical career, just rocking it out diatonically, so to speak, and it'll be cool. Again, on that video that I made, just talking about the chords in it, the most common question is, well, what about if you're in a minor key? What if you're using the minor scale? How does that affect anything? Well, first of all, the minor scale and the major scale are essentially the same thing. That's where the relative minor comes into play. So if we have those 7 notes again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that 6th note in any key, right, in the key of C, it would be an A, is where the relative minor is. Okay, so talking about it can kind of seem like a mouthful sometimes, but really, it's really kind of simple, right? The 6th note in any key, you can always find by going on a guitar back 3 frets. So whatever key this is, you can find its relative minor by backing it up 3 frets. And that major and minor scale are going to have the same notes and the same chords. Almost, okay? So we're going to get to the differences in a second, but really, if we talk about the key of A minor, right? It's the same notes in the same order, just starting on an A. So instead of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And now there is kind of a different sound when you play it. And traditionally musicians be like, okay, that's happy versus sad. It would be like a very, very, primitive way to look at something like that. Now the chords are all going to be the same because you build chords off of just those 7 notes, and they're all going to be the same, but this is where tonal center kind of comes into it. Like, am I playing this in the key of C major or is it in the key of A minor? The best way to find out is if you were to end a progression or something, where would be the best place to end it? So let's say we have like a 1, 5, 6, 1 progression in the key of C. That would be a C, G, A minor, C, like. It sounds good when you end it on that C. It resolves, right? If we tried ending it on A, it works, but it doesn't really kind of have that finality, that resolution of a C. Now, if we had the same thing, like let's make a progression that is heavy on that A minor, but doesn't even have a C major chord in it. Let's do like a 6, 4, 2, 6, right? So that would be A minor, F major, D minor, A minor, A minor, F, D minor, back to A minor. Then it sounds like it's okay. Then that would be a better place to end it than that. That C major kind of forces it into resolving it major-wise, right? So when we resolve on that, we can say that we're in the key of A minor, right? Same difference. Now, in my experience, usually the musicians that I talk to will always relate everything back to the major key. So that progression right there, even though there wasn't a C major chord in that would still be a 6, 4, 2, 6 progression. Now, if you just switched everything around and started thinking about the numbers as A being 1, which you could totally do, right? Because in A minor, A would be 1. You could think of that as a 1, F major would be A, B, C, D, E, F, a 1, 6, and then what? D minor, A, B, C, D, a 1, 6, 4, 1 progression in minor. In my experience, that really doesn't get used too often. I think, there's probably different trains of thoughts on that. I have heard other people talk about scale degrees in minor, for sure. That's fine. I just think really totally in my experience, it's always better to relate everything back to a major key, even if it isn't in a major scale, okay? Now, the one difference that you will find if it is in A minor, or if it's in a minor key or resolves on minor, there actually is another chord that is commonly used a lot. And I want to talk about the dominant chord in a key, right? We've talked about this before too, but in any major key, the 5 chord is the dominant chord, right? So in the key of C, C, D, E, F, G, G is the dominant chord, which becomes the dominant 7 chord, right? And now really the whole purpose of that chord is to bring you back home, right? So again, let's do like a 1, 6, 5, 1 progression in C. That'd be a C, G, that is the 5 chord. And that 5 chord always sets us up to come home, right? That's why it's called the dominant chord, because it dominates the chord progression as such. Now you can turn it into a dominant 7 chord, and it does it even more. So C major, A minor. Now once you start adding that dominant 7 chord in there, it is begging you for resolution. It's like, please, come home. Thank God, finally. Now, in the key of A minor, you can still make a G7 chord with all those notes, right? So it's a G, a B, a D, and an F. But it doesn't totally have the same effect of resolution. So even if we had something like A minor, F, that chord progression we did earlier. So A minor, F, G7. It has a little bit of that same thing, but it's not totally the same as a G7 to a C, right? And that's all about the 5 and the 1. Like I said, in any key, the 5 chord is where that dominant 7 thing is. Now, let's just flip everything. Say we're in A minor, same notes, everything is going on. Well, what's the 5 of A? A, B, C, D, E. So E minor actually has kind of like a little bit more of like a pull, a gravitational pull back to A minor, right? So if we did that same thing, A minor to F to D minor to E minor, right? This would be in the key of C, a 6, 4, 2, 3, 6. You can already hear that. E minor is leading us back to A minor a little bit, kind of wants to go there. Now, what we could do is we can make that minor chord dominant, right? So all that would be is like turn that E minor into an E7 chord. Okay? So now what we're doing is we're actually introducing a note that is not in the key of C, really, or the key of A minor technically, but it works, okay? So we're gonna take E minor and turn it into E7, which is really an E major chord with a dominant 7, a flat 7 in it, right? So like let's take that same thing, A minor, F major, D, and that really kind of makes you want to hit that E minor even harder. But E7 isn't a chord in the key of C when you think about just using only the notes in that key to populate chords, right? So one way to think of it, and again, borrowing chords, introducing other notes from outside of a key is something that you should totally be, thoughtful about anyways. It doesn't mean you have to do it ever, but it gets used all the time. This is one of the most common uses of that is, like a lot of times in the key of C, you'll see an E7 chord, right? Even if we kind of just avoid the A minorness of a C major progression, something like C. Let's do a 1, 4, 5 in C, which would be C to F to G to C, C, F, G, E7. That doesn't sound so bad, right? Even though we're adding that G sharp note in that E7 chord. That doesn't sound awful in the key of C. And it pretty much works. In fact, you can play the C major scale and introduce that G sharp note, C, D, E, F, G, sharp. doesn't sound bad. I mean, whatever. It's just it sounds how it sounds. So if that's the sound that you want, you can think of E7 as being another chord in kind of a pool to choose from in, you know, those main 6, 7 chords that you want. But specifically, it works great with an A minor. So what is the difference between, you know, a major key and a minor key? That's a great way to look at it is, well, practically, you know, there really isn't a lot of difference. Like there isn't a Fedora Trilby difference in my book, if you ask me. But where it resolves at tonal center, different things that you could do, adding that dominant 7 chord into the fold is kind of just one way to look at it, okay? So I think this stuff is really kind of fun to just experiment with, just take other things. You can kind of go, you know, further than that. It's like, well, maybe I could take every minor chord in that key, right? Remember we said the other 2 minor chords were D minor and E minor. And it's like, well, maybe I could add their dominant 7s from there. So instead of thinking like, okay, I'm just going to like a closer key to kind of take these, maybe you can start thinking on a chord by chord basis, and then you're kind of thinking less diatonically and maybe just more kind of just generally musically as far as like the other things available to you, right? So you could always find any single note 5 notes away from where you are. And again, 5 notes away really is just, you know, when you go through the major scale, 5 notes. So let's say we want to have something pull us closer to the D minor in that A minor, F, D minor, A minor chord. Well, let's look at D, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so A is a 5th of D. Maybe I could throw an A7 to kind of throw me closer to that D minor when I get there, to kind of make a little bit more of an impact, make that D minor more impactful. Because as it stands, we just have A minor, F, D minor, A. That D minor is kind of just, it's there. It's doing an okay job. It's really just kind of taking up space when you really think about it. But maybe between that F and that D minor, I can throw D minor's A7 to kind of partner up with a little bit. Then we've got like A minor, F, right? That A7 to that D minor is something that maybe could be interesting to you, right? It's just all about experimentation. E7 back to A. So, you know, when you're writing chord progressions, when you're just playing around, even if you kind of want to solo and like build tension or build some kind of suspense and try to push something somewhere, I really think thinking about where a chord's dominant kind of partner chord exists, whether it's in that key, whether it's in the minor key that you're kind of working with, the relative minor key, whether it's just any kind of single serving chord that you want to kind of put a little bit more impact on and kind of push something in a certain way. I think the dominant 7 chords are really one of the easiest ways to kind of start jamming that idea home, right? So anyways, hopefully that was helpful to you. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. And until then, I will talk to you all soon.